start this video out a little different than my prior videos. In this video, I'm going to actually show the finished product and then I'll show the process. On our kitchen remodel, we did our cement countertops, we did our backsplash, we put in a new sink, and we did our wood floor tiles, the wood floor porcelain tiles. Our cement countertop, it's 2.5 inches thick. Our glass backsplash replaced the little 6-inch white tile, and our cement countertops also replaced the little cement white tile.
Now it's time to do the demo. I'm about to tear the tile up. These are the tools I use: a couple hammers, chisel, pry bar, the broom. Safety equipment includes glove, goggles, and mask. Use your box cutter to score the edge so the tile doesn't rip the paint. I took my large screwdriver and put it behind the tiles at an angle and gently tapped until the tiles popped apart. Hopefully it should come off pretty easily, and then I'll finish doing the rest and then move to the countertop.
This is why you scribe or cut the paint from the top of the tile so it doesn't rip the paint off. Okay, with a few whacks of the hammer, we were able to take the backsplash off with no problems, and we didn't dent the wall or chip any paint. So off to the front, and we're going to take the front off. We're going to take the little metal bracket off. Hopefully we can remove this entire piece in 2 or 3 sections. So far it's only taken us roughly 10 minutes to get to this point. I have the chisel with the hammer, busting the tile up. There's the metal piece that I'm talking about. After we bust this tile off, we're going to pull the metal piece off that's fastened on with these nails, and then after we get that off, we should be able to just pull the cement and the tile off the wood that's sitting on top of the cabinet. And as you're pulling this metal strip out, note that there's nails, so be careful about that. Okay, the cement is sitting on these wood boards that are sitting on the top of the cabinet in the front and the top on the back. So what I did was I took the pry bar and set it onto the wood, between the wood and the cement, and I hit it in here to try to lift up as much as I can.
Once I removed the tile and the cement, this is the debris left over. Then we got rid of the debris, and now you're just left with these clean planks. All we have to do is pop up the planks and then move on to the next part of the kitchen. The small section right here next to the refrigerator was 3 feet long by 2 feet wide. I just took pictures because this came out pretty fast. Once I got rid of the backsplash and knocked the tile pieces off in the front, it pretty much came up in one piece. I was able to just grab it, pick it up, slide it off, take it to the backyard, put it in the trash can. Moving on to the rest of the kitchen, right here are some before pictures of what it looked like before me and my daughter tackled taking the rest of the tile work off.
No, but all this gonna get...
But then it breaks.
Taking the sink out was a little easier than I thought. All you do is bust the tiles up in the front, in the back, lift it up, make sure the tiles on the side of the sink are detached, and then the only thing you're left with is the garbage disposal. The demolition is done, all the tile work is out of the house and on the side. Now the only thing is left is to get rid of all the wood planks that are exposed, showing what the complete countertop looks like when you remove the tile. In case you want to put the planks back, right here you can get a very good idea of how they should go.
We're at the stage where we're going to pry bar the wood panels up, and then we're going to put the backboard in. So I already took down that. It's just this easy. All they did was nail gun them in, pry them up. I had to go back later, and if all the nails don't come up, I have to go back later and pull these nails up.
The garbage disposal is still attached to the sink, and it was easier to take out than I thought. You simply unscrew the P-trap and drain pipes after you take out the dishwasher outlet, and then you just take everything out. Taking the garbage disposal out is a piece of cake. You simply unplug it, and don't do like I'm doing right here where I'm turning it. You simply take a screwdriver and you put it into one of the tabs on the mounting plate, turn it clockwise, and it'll come right out. Next, I'm going to remove the sink and faucet in one simple step. What you want to do is you turn off the supply line that supplies water to the faucet. I used a 5/8" wrench, and then I put the bucket under the lines to collect any water that came out. Once I took the sink and faucet out, I was done with the kitchen countertop demolition, and now it's time to move on to installing the backer boards so I can put the forms down.
After you measure your backer board, you get a straight edge. I'm just using another backer board, and I'm using the safety guide on my utility blade to score the edge all the way across. Then, once you score the edge, you bring it over and you go ahead and break it off.
Attaching the backboard is pretty easy once you have it cut to the proper dimensions. I use silicone instead of screws in case I ever want to pop it up for whatever reason. You simply put silicone on the back edge, on the front edge, and any connecting wood pieces you have. Put the silicone down and use a weight or your hands until it adheres, and then you're done. I use backer board cement tape to connect all the pieces that butted up against each other so that the cement doesn't fall through, and it makes for a good strong connection.
Okay, the demo is done, the backer board has been laid. Now it's time for us to install our cement forms. Now, what you see in front of you, these are 7 decorative edge profiles that you get from this company called Z Countertop Solutions. I'll leave their name in the description below. I ordered this little sample kit. Like I said, it's 7 of the styles that they carry. Like for instance, this is a straight edge, this would be a bull nose, this is a half bull nose. This is the one we went with. It's called a double fancy radius. What you do, you simply, the forms come in 8 feet long, and you get a piece that goes on the back. So what you would do, essentially, you would go like this, screw this down, and then there is your edge profile. So when they gave me the kit, I made all 7 samples, which I'll put that picture up. I made all 7 samples, and then I stained them so I can get a better idea of what it would look like stained and what each sample would look like.
I just received the Z Countertop Fancy Edge profile in this long box. It's an 8-foot long box because you get 8 feet long pieces, and which totals 64 linear feet. You also get 48 linear feet of the back wall forms. Now that I have my forms, I'm going to take and measure the front and back, and then go into the backyard, use my miter saw and cut them to the proper size, and then install them in the kitchen.
Now, I just used a 1x4, a 1x underneath the concrete edge. It holds it perfect while you're making your cut. And let's go see how good of a job I did. As you can see, this is where we already did this side. We just measured the back, cut it, pre-drilled the holes, used 5/8 inch screws to screw it into the back board. We measured the front, measured the sides, cut them. As you can see right here in the corner, we cut back the back edging so that it would line up, and we also had to cut it in the front. So I think that might be perfect. So now we're gonna cut one of the long pieces at a 45-degree angle and line it up, and then make adjustments if it's not right. And we're going to put the entire backing piece with a little trim cut, and which that'll be easy because we're just going to use 1 8-foot piece for the back and then 1 8-foot piece for the front. So that'll be easy. This is the miter piece I just cut. I am about to miter this at 45 because, as you see, it doesn't line up. And now that I mitered both pieces, you see that they fit perfectly tight. Here is the side view of the edge profile. You can see where the edge, the bottom part goes down and covers the backer board. So when you go ahead and snap it off, which it snaps off right here when you get done, you won't see the backer board, you'll just see the countertop. Okay, so right here I drew a line so I know exactly where to line the edge profile up for this piece. I pre-drilled the holes in the profile. Now I'm going to use the 5/8 inch screws. Okay, and I will go ahead and screw this all the way down. Go ahead and screw this all the way down. And then I will attach this one. And then I will attach the back. And then this whole section. And over here is, this is going to be interesting because this is an inside edge. It's going to be an interesting cut. This is how it would look if you didn't cut the little notch out of the back piece that attaches to the wall. It would overlap and you would have cement on the wall, and it creates a little lip right there. So that's why you cut the back out. Cut a notch out of the back. And after I mitered my corners, I went ahead and just used some Gorilla Tape and taped all the corners, and that's where the two pieces joined. That's the miter in the corner, and that's the other edge. I'm using lattice rebarb because I'm using such a dry mix. I can dry mix of cement. I can lay a inch layer in there, put the lattice rebarb, and then pack the cement on top. I'm crisscrossing it. Haven't quite finished, but here's how I am actually cutting it. I'm going to cut it right here, and I have a pair of 10 snips. Pair of 10 snips, and I just use my weight. Goes through it rather easy if you use your weight. And there you go. For our sink hole, what I did is I cut this 1x6 and I just screwed it in. To the support beams that I had made, and since we're doing a top mount, it doesn't really matter how smooth the cement looks. I think it's going to be sitting on top, but I took my straight edge and I put it over the front edge molding and the back edge. Put the straight edge over this and just lifted this up until it just rested against it, as you can see. And it slides across without impeding its progress.
I put masking tape along the back wall on the top of the back form, so when you're screeding, you don't bring any of the drywall debris into your cement mix. In the garage is where I mixed my own concrete. I used my formula, which is 2 part sand to 1 part white cement and 1 part pebble rock. The pebble rock is just for volume. I'm using my hammer drill, which I have attached to it a single blade cement mixer. I have a respirator on, gloves, and an apron. I'm in the garage with the big door open and the side door open for ventilation. I wanted the mixture to have a clay-like texture, so I started out with just 1 gallon of water and I added small increments until I got the desired texture.
Okay, what we just did, we mixed the cement in the garage, and you can see the cement. We mixed the cement in the garage in the blue bucket. Then we took the smaller bucket to dump it up in here. I took the wood float, I leveled it out. Now I'm going to take the rebarb, place the rebarb in, and then take the cement and go ahead and finish putting the cement over the top. When we took the cement out of the bucket, we stuffed it in here, but we're still going to vibrate just to get all the air out. That's the benefit of using a dry mix, is that you don't have to suspend the rebarb. Place it as you go.
After I placed a 1-inch layer of cement, then I took the rebarb and I placed it in, and I used the wood float to pack it down. Then I'm going to put in the remaining cement, which was at least another inch, and I screeded it, packed it down, leveled it off. That's the benefit again of using such a dry mix. You don't have to suspend the rebarb. You can place it in throughout. You can place it in as you are putting your cement in. I will say that one of the disadvantages of using a dry mix, it is a little more time consuming. You have to go to the bucket, pull it out, pack it in, stuff it down, screed more, but the advantage is it will dry a lot faster, just takes a little longer putting it in. Now that it's level, after I got done screeding it, I used my wood float to get it level. And since I use such a dry mix, it is drying rather fast, which is not a problem. So after it dries a little bit longer, I will use the magnesium float. Then I will switch over to the finishing trowel or the finishing float and make it as smooth and as level as possible.
I just got done pouring the last side, and as usual, I did the side way better than the other two. On the sink. Just like anything, if I would have did this where I am right now, my skill set right now, if I was to do it over, it would all come out better. As soon as this dries a little bit, I'll go ahead and flatten it out with the magnesium trowel, but yeah, you can see how level it is. And not that those aren't level. And that's level also. I'm just better right now. Okay, right here, I'm about to finish up the last of the countertop. I have a bucket of leftover cement in case I need to fill in a hole. I'm going to take my magnesium trowel and I'm just going to touch it. Just left a little fingerprint there, not there, a little bit there. So I'm going to use my magnesium float and just go over it. I like to go to the edge and go over. Start at the back, come all the way to the front. And when I sit the magnesium float right there, you can see how it didn't smooth out this area, because that means there's a low spot. So I'm going to take a little bit of cement and fill in that little void. Let's see. Now there's another little void. I'm gonna do the same thing, and then I'll finish using the magnesium float. Then once it dries a little bit, I'll go to the finishing trowel.
Since I used such a dry mix, it only took 2 days for the countertops to cure until I could take off the decorative front molding. I'm using a plastic putty knife to just give me some gap so I can get my hands in. I also had to use a flathead screwdriver, which I was very careful not to dig into the cement. But with the combination of the two, I was able to pry it loose just enough to get my hands in, and then you'll see me pop it off. A clean break, just like they said it would. The cement forms are made with such precision that you'll notice the red putty knife will stay standing vertical by itself once I snap off the edge.
Alright, so pop this one off. This one is a whole lot smoother. Few little holes. Can you see this hole? Okay, I'm making the slurry to fill in all the voids. I'm using the concrete bonding agent from Quikrete. I'm using the white cement and I'm using a little bit of the sand. The directions say you 2 parts cement, 1 part bonding agent, and then you mix it. I'm using a little bit of sand because I have some very big voids and I want it to look the same as the rest of the countertops.
I simply mixed all 3 of the ingredients in this little bucket with a small little paint mixture attached to my drill. Then I mixed it until it was very smooth and had a toothpaste-like consistency.
Okay, right here are some of the voids left when I took the edge off. So here's some slurry. You make it toothpaste-like. You fill the void in. You let it set up a little bit. And then you wipe it off. And if the holes are big, you build it up slow. You build it up slow, and then you come back and put some more. Right now I'm at that stage where I'm about to start sanding the countertops. And in order to sand the countertops, you need these diamond pads. These work just like sandpaper to cement. That's what these do. They level out the countertops and then they smooth them to a very, very shiny and smooth finish. This particular stack, it has a 50 grit, a 100 grit, 200 grit, 800 grit, 400 grit, 800 grit, 1500 grit, 3000, and then a buffing pad. Now looking at the front of them, it's kind of hard to differentiate. They really don't look that different. They really don't feel that different. So it's kind of hard. That's why they put the number on the back, and they're color coded. So you know, you grab a different color, you know you have a different grit. I have 3 different sizes. This is 3.5 inch, 4.5 inch, 5.5 inch. They all work the same. And then these 2 over here, these are for your hand if you just want to get into those hard to reach areas. These all work the same. You attach them to this Velcro. They have Velcro on the back, and as you see, they just stick. The Velcro pad attaches to your polish sander. And the reason you want to use a polish sander is because they don't turn at the same high rate as a grinder. Never use a grinder, they turn too fast. This is a variable speed polish sander, so I can turn it up or down, and that's just what you want. When you're using these, you can use these either wet or dry. They're going to work either way. I did a combination of the 2. So now that you know what I'm working with, let me go show you how I use them.
Okay, I put together this painter's tarp. I simply taped it to the ceiling, I taped it to the wall, I taped 2 pieces together because I'm about to start sanding. I converted 1 big room into 2 small rooms so the dust doesn't get everywhere. On the other side, I'm using that same tarp to cover the refrigerator. I covered my island. Now, I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't do this at first, and I'm gonna show you some pictures. and I have dust everywhere, on my couch, on the floor, on the island. So if you're gonna do this, because when you start sanding, you're kicking dust everywhere. So just put up a little tarp, put you on a respirator, and then you're good to sand. I'm starting out with a 200 grit sanding diamond pad so I can level out any of the high spots, get it as level and as smooth as possible. I have my long gloves, I have my apron, I have hearing protection, I have a respirator, and of course I have my eye protection. Now this makes a lot of noise, so I also suggest that you wear hearing protection. On the diamond pads, the 50 grit, 100 grit, 200 grit, and 300 grit are primarily used to level out or make whatever surface you're sanding to make it as flat as possible. Then the 400 and 500 pretty much gets rid of the swirl marks left by the other diamond pads. So after I get done using the 200, 300, and 400 on all of the countertop surfaces, I'm going to switch to 500 pad, 800 pad, and 1000 diamond pad, and I'm actually going to just use my hand because I want to really fine tune the speed.
Okay, I did the initial sanding, and now I'm going to go ahead and polish it up. I already slurried the countertop, so now this is the final sanding. This is a 300 grit, then I'm going to go 4, 5, stop at 800. I'm taking a water bottle. I spray the water bottle on the diamond pad. I soak the countertop. Well, I don't soak it, but I spray water on it, just in a little section, and I sand that section. I go over that section, and you can see that it is coming up. It's very smooth. You can just do one section at a time this way. A little small section, no dust, and you're not throwing water everywhere because you're just turning it by hand.
After I cycled through all of the diamond smoothing pads up to the buffing pad, the countertop was smooth and shiny. Then it was time to move on to our glass backsplash. In order to put the backsplash up, it's pretty straightforward. You lay it out, you trim your pieces, then you simply take your notched trowel and you put thin set on the wall. Once the thin set is on the wall, you just push the tile up to the thin set and you let the tile dry with the thin set on the wall. And then after it dried, it took about a day. Then we moved on to putting the grout. And then once the grout was up, we just wiped the grout down, and you'll see in this video right here, I'm just putting the grout on, and then we wiped the grout off, and then we were done. And it was time to move on to the next step, which is putting the final touch on our cabinets. The final touch on our cement countertop, which you'll see in a second. I've sanded smooth all the surfaces of the entire countertop. Everything is smooth, it's shiny, it's ready to go. The only thing left is to put the sealer on it, and that's what I'm about to do right here. This is actually a high gloss sealer, so it's a 2-for-1. It's going to shine and protect at the same time. The directions say you use a sponge, and obviously the countertop itself has to be clean and free of all debris, which it is. I've wiped it down. Then you take your sponge, you dip it into whatever container you're using, and you use long, real long wiping soft strokes. So it's going to take a few layers. I think I used 3 or 4 different coats. So you put one coat on, a thin layer, and then you build it up. This is after one coat. As you can see, it's very shiny. The gloss is really showing through right now. The directions say build it up. I'm going to put 2 to 3 more coats, and then I will show you the finished product.
Okay, I'm going to conclude this video by giving you an update on the kitchen. It's been 3.5 years and the kitchen still looks pretty much like it did the day I finished. The cement countertops, I know you can't see this in the video, but they're very soft and very smooth, which to me that's amazing because it's cement. That was why we wanted to go with cement, because of how soft it was. On the countertops, we used 25 feet of the edge molding. We used roughly 50 tiles, one by a 1 foot square, a square foot backsplash tile. On the countertop, they're still shiny, they're still glossy, because the gloss that I used, it was a shiny gloss and it has held up. The instructions say that you need to strip it and reapply it every 3 to 5 years, but so far it's been 3.5 years and it's still holding up. The entire project, the floor, the backsplash, and the countertops, it took roughly a week. The cost, it was between $800 and $1,000. I didn't show the floor because I'm going to do that in a separate video, because this video was long enough as it is and I don't want to make it any longer. As usual, I appreciate your time for watching. I appreciate your time for sticking around this long. So it was a long video. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'll be sure to answer. Thank you.